inside the Quran also referred to one use of that. But normally, when we talk about it, then it refers to several meanings such as self, soul, ego, spirit, psyche, life, as well as human being. So it's not confined to one single being. It also refers to common source or origin of the male and female in human society. So the Quran tells us, "O people, fear your Lord who created you from a single being or nafs, and out of it created its mate, and out of the two spread many beings." And same term is used in terms of human being, where it said, "Every nafs is bound to taste death." Let me find ये टेक्नोलॉजी जितनी भी हम आगे बढ़ जाएं तो वो आपको बेबस कर देती है आपको। I mentioned in the beginning that nafs is quite often confused with ruh, and sometimes it's used as a synonym, but in the Quran, two terms are very much distinct and different. And in front of you is a statement which tells us that ruh has been defined by the Quran itself as Amr Rabbi, and therefore it's not to be confused with nafs or self as it exists. So one use of nafs is that of tempting soul or self. This tempting self exists as a state of mind and heart. In front of you is the reference from the Quran. Similarly, the second dimension of nafs is nafs lawama, which refers to the nafs which is having a conscientious standing. It is like a reminder to human beings. It tells us that if you follow a right approach, then you will be successful. And if you get trapped in your deception, you might have problems. So this refers to that nafs which helps us in deciding or making an ethical judgment. The prophetic hadith also tells us that this role is played by human heart of the believer. Therefore, hadith tells us that your heart is a mukti. So it's not just a matter of amygdala that decides in modern psychology, but it's a matter of heart as well. Then it's also used in terms of a serene self, a settled self, a satisfied self, and all that is capsuled in one single Quranic ayah which you heard in the beginning as part of the citation. And that tells us that these states of nafs are various. The one where nafs may tempt, the one where nafs may lead to something positive, constructive, ethical, and the third where the nafs ultimately gets settled. And then the term I use for that is, it's ethical intelligence, not human intelligence, as discussed by modern psychology. So, again, ये आपका जो ذاتی ہاتھ ہے وہ چاہیے ہوگا اس کو آپ پھنسانے کے لیے، یا آپ وہاں سے کر لیجیے تاکہ میں جی وہاں سے اسکاتے رہیے آپ، زیادہ بہتر. So next slide please, if you don't mind. These three states of self indicate how the Quranic holistic ethics guides and protects a person whenever a person has to make an ethical judgment. So these three usage of the nafs need to be kept in mind. The scenario may be when someone is offered a bribe of millions of dollars, or a person is offered privacy with a person. In all situations, when no hidden camera is there, nafs can always misguide. Nafs Labama, conscious, holistic, ethical intelligence, helps in making a snap judgment by yearning and entering in protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by using one simple statement of the Quran, and that is ta'awuz. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. That brings the whole human mind and heart together in a state of serenity, which is settled, which is referred to in Nafs Mutmainna. Next please. The desired state of self is achieved when a person internalizes Allah's love in his eyes, in his ears, in his mind, in his tongue, in his heart, in his hands and feet, as the hadith tells us. Which means that the state of Nafs Mutmainna is not something which is not attainable. Secondly, it means that it requires a conscious effort on the part of individual, how a person's limbs, a person's imagination, a person's tongue, all that becomes synergized in a manner where what Allah wants becomes his activity. The serene, satisfied self responds only and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants him or her to respond. The self consequently becomes sabir, shakir, qani, mustaqim and muttaqi. These terms of the Quran are known to you, and perhaps you will raise some questions on this. When nafs is mutmain, satisfied and serene, then you develop the attitude of sabr, which is not surrender, which is not helplessness, which is not passivity. But sabr in the Quran means that struggle which is vibrant, continuous, energetic, forceful. And therefore the Quran says if you have only 20 sabirin, they are going to overcome 200 people. The words used by the Quran are sabir, not mujahid. Similarly, the word shukr, or when a person is shakir, does not mean he is just saying by his tongue, thank you very much. But his whole attitude, when he is sipping water, when he is breathing fresh air, when he is putting a dress, when he is tasting a fruit or a piece of meat cooked in a very beautiful manner, whatever one is doing, in all those situations the person feels. Young girls and boys sitting in the back row, whom are you watching? Are you following the so-called manuals of speech which tell you your eyeballs must roll, your body must shake, your hand must shake, and then you can communicate better? And for that, go and find out all those manuals which I have read and used. They just focus on those aspects. But then find what's the sunnah of the Prophet peace be upon him. Does he gaze and look into the eyes of Sahabiyat? What does the Quran say? The Quran says your eyes must be down, gaze must be down. And that means with gaze down, with eyes down, you should be able to communicate. Otherwise, Quran will never see it. All men will say, if you don't fix your eyes on the audience, you will put them to sleep. The Quran says different. And that's the meaning of tazkiyah of your nazar. If I'm watching things which are prohibited, carrying tasbih in my hand, I'm fooling myself. And same applies to tazkiyah of all. If my speech and my talk is based on a vocabulary which is not submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm using all kind of words irrespective of filtration, but at the same time carrying the tasbih in my hand. What's the meaning of tazkiyah? Tazkiyah is not counting how many times you have said name. And similarly, tazkiyah of waqt, which people call time management. What kind of schedule I have for myself? From Fajr till Isha and after Isha. Have I done things which are supposed to be done? Or we are a nation which feels proud in wasting time as much as possible. Wasting time in just chatting, wasting time in just sitting idle, wasting time in watching meaningless movies and talk shows and comedies. And at the same time, in professional areas, do we have a time management for everything? If you are in a clinic and you have allowed your office to register 50 patients, are you managing time? Are you aware that you have invited people who will pay you, but they are waiting for hours and hours for your laziness, for your not having time management? That means we are a nation who has no concept about time. Every second is going to be assessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No human being will be able to move from the field of Day of Judgment unless asked, how did you earn your resources? How do you spend your time? How did you live your life? How do you translate your ideas into your actions and so on? And lastly, tazkiyah of mal, which means how one is going to acquire resources and how one is going to spend. Unless I have every second year a brand new automobile, I'm not observing my real status in society. Unless I have a villa with swimming pool, I'm doing injustice to myself and my children. I can only be fair to them when they have a swimming pool, while people in the country may be dying out of thirst, and while places which were at one time greeneries become deserted areas. Now, that means not only how you earn, but also how you invest it and use it. Is it halal for me to make use of branded dress only so people know my status? Well, I can get same material stitched by a tailor in more comfortable manner and more respectable dress. That means resource management and accountability and tazkiyah is not just a matter of esoteric exercises. Tazkiyah brings to your mind that you leave the world and go to a forest or a shrine and stay there for 7 years and come out a person who can predict fate of others. That's totally fictitious mythological concept of tazkiyah. Tazkiyah is a behavioral terminology. It deals with behavior. The Quran tells you very clearly that your nafs is not ruh, as I said earlier, which is confused by psychologists and many Muslim scholars as well. Nafs has 3 states, and these states are the behavioral states. And these states also tell you what kind of personality is that. A dual personality, a tawhidi personality, a personality which is settled, which you call mature. And all these are aspects which are doable, not hypothetical, not speculative, not a matter of trial and error, but things which are truthful, things which are applicable, things which can transform youth, elderly, children, everyone. So, to conclude, when we talk about Tajdeed al-Nafs topic given to me, then nafs is not a matter of just withdrawing yourself from society in the name of tazkiyah for 40 days, for 40 months, for 40 years. But this taming of nafs is done in the hub of attractions, when you are living in real life situation. It's not a matter of theology, not a matter of theory, but it's a matter of facing the music and trying to prevail over it. So, and that can be done, as I mentioned earlier. It's not that it requires always a PhD in theology, Islamic Studies. The Quran is for common man. The Quran and Prophet is not for just Muslims, but for all humanity. And therefore, our youth have to understand, unless they relate themselves in a new manner with the Quran and Sunnah, they need to develop a companionship with the Quran and the Prophet. When they have these two companions, that will liberate them from any other dependable friends. Those who claim dependable friends themselves need some dependence. But these two friends make you free from all kinds of problems, depressions, crisis. If these two are made companions, then you have not only your nafs, but your whole personality transformed. May Allah bless you all, and I'm sure you have many questions.